This is VikesNow, and I am Dustin Baker. We are doing quarterback rankings today. Reminder for folks who watch daily, I will be gone starting Friday for about 9 days on a trip, family vacation. So I want to do the proverbial ranking of quarterbacks right out of the gate. In case I forget, I did not include Deshaun Watson in these because I don't think he'll play much, or at least he'll be suspended for half the year. So I thought it was silly to try to pair him up. Oh boy, what we know about Watson based on history, but on the field only, he'd probably be number 7 or so on here. So take that with a grain of salt. You're also going to find out that your humble correspondent here is not the Kirk Cousins eternalist that he's pegged to be. I came up on Vikings Twitter posting statistics about the Vikings, and often there were these falsehoods back in 2020 that still persist to this day about Cousins. And I kind of built my reputation on disproving those with statistics. So some folks label me as a Cousins stan, Cousins homer. And I've said this several times on the podcast with Bryant McKinney, that I like Kirk Cousins as much as I do any Vikings quarterback in the past. Dante Culpepper, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Bradford. If I was around in this space back in 2016 and people were saying false shit about Sam Bradford, then I guess I'd be labeled the Bradford guy because I would disprove that too. So you're about to find out in these rankings that I do not feel that Mr. Cousins is a top 10 quarterback, and I've never proclaimed as such. So let's go through these rankings, the top 15. I'm going to start at 15 and wind it down to number 1 with a little context on each man. First one I have right out of the gate here is Ryan Tannehill for the Tennessee Titans. So here's the deal on Tannehill. I think he's had a wonderful little run, unforeseen. Remember when he signed with the Dolphins? He was the backup quarterback, and he, to his credit, seized the day and took that job for himself. They were the number 1 seed, the AFC last year that nobody was afraid of. But with the help of Derrick Henry, the Titans, and Coach Vrabel, the Titans have been one of the sturdiest organizations over the last 3 years or so, even ending Tom Brady's run with the New England Patriots, which was are incredible and unforeseen. But I do think that the clock is running out on the Titans' little experiment, that it's probably hitched to the wagon of Derrick Henry's prime, and I just don't think Tannehill is too prolific, but I do have him slated for 2022 performance as 15th best in the league. So that's another caveat I should give. This is based on how I feel these quarterbacks will perform this year. I do care about the past, but not on this show. Looking forward. So number 15 is Ryan Tannehill. Number 14, I like this dude in this spot, Matt Ryan with the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are always, in the last half decade, a structurally sound organization, and they're just in this Vikings-ish pattern of quarterback lack of continuity. They can't get it right. Andrew Luck screwed them and retired. Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and now they have Matt Ryan, who at this age, what is he, 35, 36, should be better than old man Rivers at that point. Certainly better than Wentz from last year, and then Jacoby Brissett was never very good to begin with. So I do like Matt Ryan taking over this team, not to win a Super Bowl, but to make them relevant in a deadly AFC conference that's already stacked to the gills. So I like Matt Ryan at number 14 because I think he has some left in the tank, and he just got sour with the Falcons, and they chose not to surround a team. They're in purgatory right now. I can't tell if they're rebuilding, tanking, competing, what the hell they're doing. And I don't care because they're not called the Minnesota Vikings. So number 14 for me is Matt Ryan. I think he'll click because the offensive line is wonderful, always is with the Colts. And they have noteworthy weapons on wide receiving core, and of course Jonathan Taylor, who most perceive as the best running back in the league all of a sudden. Number 13 for me is Derek Carr with the Las Vegas Raiders. I've tweeted a bunch of times that I believe he and Kirk Cousins are bedfellows for talent, and I've said a lot before, if you stick Cousins, Carr, or Stafford on the 2021 Rams, I firmly believe all three of those men win a Super Bowl with Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell. Derek Carr is a standalone entity at quarterback with the Raiders. They have a problem in the AFC West that all the other teams are just better than them. So I think by default, they're going to finish 7-10 or so. And I think Carr will have a typical year for him, which is 28 touchdowns, 11 picks, 4,000 yards, and the Raiders will finish 7-10. But I do think Carr is a good quarterback, and he's at number 13. And this brings me to number 12, which is Kirk Cousins. Now, I do believe in the possibility of Cousins being unlocked like Matthew Stafford was last year, and the Vikings can do great things. But in September, Kevin O'Connell actually has to do it. And until it happens, I'm not going to slide him up any quarterback power rankings because I need to see it. Yes, I think he'll play a whole hell of a lot better with a new system. But as kind of a cynic like you guys at time, I don't want to get too high, too invested, because what happens if this O'Connell guy flat out sucks? We were all wrong. Didn't know how to coach. He was too young, too soon. Where the hell is Zimmer? It's unlikely people would actually say that because Zimmer didn't do much in the last 2 years. But I think Cousins can do wonderful things with Kevin O'Connell in charge, but my eyes have to see it first, and Cousins already does a wonderful job without O'Connell. 33 touchdowns last year, 7 picks. The year before that, 35 touchdowns, 13 picks. Every year, same stuff. It just so happens that these last couple of years, the Zimmer defense flat out died. Out of nowhere, the 2020 free agency that saw the exodus of Linval Joseph, Everson Griffin, Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander. Who else? Did I say Linval Joseph already? Yeah, that mass exodus of free agent defenders evidently sunk what Zimmer wanted to do on defense. So I do have Cousins as number 12 heading into the 2022 season. Right above him at number 11 is Dak Prescott. On the other podcast that I do, NFL Trend Zone, I've talked to Wes Johnson, Jason Bolin, and Cody Spears a couple times that all of these Prescott excuses, need to be done. We need to stop treating him like he's a 23-year-old quarterback that will break out at some point. He's been in the league since 2016. This will be his 7th season in the business. Now is the time for Dak. Do whatever it is he's going to do, because to date, he's just been a damn good quarterback, and it kind of falls nicely into that Cowboys mantra over the last 25 years of they're good, but they ain't going to the Super Bowl. And I think Prescott has high stakes because his honeymoon is over as a young quarterback. Number 10, Kyler Murray. I like Murray's game a lot. I thought it was silly that he was in the Vikings rumor mill for a while about how they could possibly trade for him. Remember when he did something to the effect, or implied that perhaps he was disgruntled, and then he tried to put down the insurrection of, is he happy there by posting a picture of himself with a weird tweet. But it looks like he's back in the saddle in Arizona. You saw when the Vikings played them last year in week 2 that he was absolutely marvelous. Looked like Russell Wilson reincarnated. And yeah, I think Kyler Murray, until I see otherwise, I know the Cardinals collapse habitually at the end of seasons. Again, not my problem because they're not the Vikings, but his skill set, his speed, his arm, the weapons and Cardinals, they're going to be my Super Bowl prediction in the NFC. Not to win it, because I think the Chiefs have to get back off the schneid, but I'll ultimately pick the Chiefs and the Cardinals in Super Bowl 50, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the number. And accordingly, Kyler Murray is my 10th best quarterback heading into 2022. The next one is a little bit surprising because he had a shitty year last year. That's Lamar Jackson. The 2019 league MVP had a bad year last year. Nobody cared because it's Lamar Jackson. He had one good game. That was against the Indianapolis Colts when they triumphantly came from behind in what we call the 3 o'clock window here in the Central Time Zone. That was the one time he was good last year. Other than that, dirty little secret about the 2021 NFL season is that Lamar Jackson wasn't good. Now, I'm putting him in the top 10 for a bounce back here. So this doesn't mean that I think that Jackson is no good or that he's overrated, there's just a running back or any weird shit like that. I just think that based on his skill set, kind of like Murray's, that he is destined to have a better year than last year. Almost like a chip on his shoulder type of thing. And for me, that mandates number 9th in the NFL because he's so damn dynamic. Number 8 is Joe Burrow. The guy is cool as hell, got to a Super Bowl with a shitty offensive line. Can we get some of that, please? Probably never. But yeah, I think Joe Burrow is trending to be the face of the league. He's got everything. He's got an offensive, now he has an offensive line that was fixed, supposedly in one offseason, just like the Chiefs did when they lost their Super Bowl 2 years ago. But I have nothing but positive things to say about Burrow. The only thing that concerns me, and hence number 8, not in the top 5 in these rankings, is that the Super Bowl runner-up hangover curse is real. Teams that get to the Super Bowl and lose outside of the Chiefs, who probably will never have a losing season with Mahomes in charge. They don't fare well the following season. It's very odd. Teams that lose the Super Bowl have a hard time even making it back to the playoffs. And therefore, I have Burrow at number 8. Number 7 is the guy that I compared Carr and Cousins to. That's Matthew Stafford. Now, you might ask, well, you just gave this big-ass speech about Carr, Cousins, Stafford are all the same dude. Indeed, I did. However, we've seen the proof in the pudding, verifiably, with a Lombardi trophy, that Stafford is the real deal with that offense-first coaching staff that the Vikings wanted to get a little piece of. Stafford, I've always thought that he's good. He's never scared the pants off me, even during the run with the Rams. What are we at? 6 months ago, he did so much shit that should have been his undoing. What was the interception dropped by Jaquiski Tart that would have ended their whole run? And he had a lot of curious throws in the playoffs that kind of like the Lamar Jackson overlooked. Nobody cares because it's Stafford, and yay, we love Stafford. The little engine that could with a shitty team in Detroit. But Stafford proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that he's the real deal. And who wouldn't be with that roster that they had? Von Miller, Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, by the way, Jalen Ramsey. That team was ripe for Super Bowl contention. And we look back on it now and you're like, well, of course they won the Super Bowl. Did you see that damn roster? Indeed. So Stafford is at number 7 because he deserves it, based on the 2021 outcome. Number 6 is Justin Herbert, who the Vikings toppled last year in probably their best game of the season. It was nice when they beat the Packers at US Bank Stadium, but the Chargers game was probably the most unpredictable win by the Vikings. We didn't know which way the season was going to go, and it felt after the Chargers game that, hey, this team has some oomph. But the Chargers, like the Vikings, are kind of weird at times. When you think they're good, then they'll put a turd out. And that's the way the Chargers have been for a while, even with Rivers in charge. But Herbert, spectacular. I'll always look back and marvel about how he got into the league when Tyrod Taylor got injected in the lungs, and they said, hey, Justin, you're starting in about 5 minutes. And he was like, cool. And he just went out and dominated thereafter and never relinquished his job. Herbert is number 6 for me because I don't see any true weaknesses in his game. Number 5 is Russell Wilson for the Denver Broncos. He had a quiet year, first quiet year of his career last year. It was kind of the undoing of Seattle, who seems to be rebuilding now. But the Vikings' former second-in-command, George Paton, made a king's ransom type of deal for Wilson, and I think it will work. Have I said it on this show, or have I just written about it? I can't remember. But the last 2 seasons, Super Bowl winners were with wonderful veteran quarterbacks in their first year with the team. Brady in 2020 in Tampa Bay, Stafford in 2021 with the Rams. If this saga continues, boom, Wilson in Denver, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, a good offensive line. Wilson should be tailor-made to excel, and I think that he'll be good for 35 to 40 touchdowns and a winning record and a playoff berth for the Denver Broncos. It's just a match made in heaven. Since the Broncos won a Super Bowl with Gary Kubiak as the head coach in 2015, they've been shit. They can't figure out the quarterback situation. John Elway, who was a Hall of Fame quarterback, can't scout quarterbacks. Figure that one out. Alas, Elway allegedly isn't in charge anymore, so Peyton swung the Godfather deal for Wilson, and I think it clicks, and hence Wilson is number 5 for me. Number 4, you can probably figure him out if you're keeping track in your head. I'm going with Tom Brady. I won't be the guy to ever say he's going to slow down, and that's probably why he's ranked number 4. I just don't think that he's better than the other 3 at this old. The guy is, my goodness, 7 years older than me. It's wild. But Brady will always be relevant until he's not. Almost retired this offseason. That lasted for 6 weeks. He said, I'm coming back. But I think Brady will be the 4th best quarterback in terms of 2022 production, and knowing him, that could slide to 1 before it's all said and done. Number 3 is Aaron Rodgers, 2-time MVP. I know he has diminished weapons. He doesn't have Devontae Adams anymore. I get it. He's going to figure it out, and you know he will, and he'll probably do it right away against the Vikings. Will be some headline by some asshole Green Bay writer that says, Devontae who? Because Rodgers had 3 touchdowns and a loss to the Vikings. Yeah, no. We shall see. Rodgers is too good, too consistent, too Green Bay-ish to rank outside the top 3. And let's be honest, for a guy who's won back-to-back MVPs, you can't keep him out of the top 3. Can you tell I don't care for the guy? Number 2, this is where you probably think this is a little funky. Number 2 for me is Josh Allen. I know that he's everybody's unbelievably fashionable pick to win the MVP, and he probably will win it. But I still think the number 1 guy is the cream of the crop for quarterbacks in the NFL. Josh Allen with the Bills, Stephon Diggs, Case Keenum, James Cook, Dalvin's brother, all these Vikings connections on that wonderfully constructed team. He's going to have a big year, and it's all going to come down to whether or not they can get the Chiefs monkey off their back, because the Chiefs have knocked them out of the postseason 2 years in a row in dramatic, epic fashion. And we shall see if the Bills can finally get out of the playoff doghouse, because if they don't, especially if they lose to the Chiefs again, it's going to feel like 1990, 91, 92, 93 all over again, but not in the Super Bowl. The Bills are just losing prematurely and don't have to go through the heartbreak of Super Bowl losses to the Giants, Commanders, and Cowboys twice. Josh Allen, number 2, and number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. I think we have Mahomes fatigue at times. I gave a big speech on this show a while back about how if Mahomes was just dropped on the planet for the first time this September, he would be everybody's best player in the world. But because now you have an expectation, this is what happens to LeBron James for the last 20 years. Because you know what you're getting and it's so damn good, then it gets stale after a while. That's why Michael Jordan didn't win MVPs every single year in his reign of terror in the 80s and 90s, is because they're like, oh, we got to give it to Karl Malone every now and then. We can't give it to Jordan every year. And that's how it was with LeBron too. And I think that's where we're at with Mahomes. That's how good he is. And until he's not good anymore, he did have that weird little, month? The Chiefs were garbage for about a month last year. That was frightening. But they bounced back, got the AFC Championship, no cigar. But I do believe that Mahomes is a better quarterback than Josh Allen. And, they're close to 1A, 1B, but Mahomes to me is the standard bearer. That's what I got for quarterbacks. Let's go run down the line. Number 15, Ryan Tannehill. Number 14, Matt Ryan. Number 13, Derek Carr. Number 12, Kirk Cousins. Number 11, Dak Prescott. Number 10, Kyler Murray. Number 9, Lamar Jackson. I really contemplated where to put him. Number 8, Joe Burrow. Number 7, Matt Stafford. Number 6, Justin Herbert. Number 5, Russell Wilson. Number 4, Tom Brady. Number 3, the Green Bay quarterback. Number 2, Josh Allen. And number 1, Patrick Mahomes. We'll be back with Josh Fry tomorrow. I told you guys that he's now a weekly guest on Wednesdays, and I'll pick his brain, I think, on the same topic. I'll get him to do his quarterbacks, and we'll make it a quarterback week. That's all I got, and skol, baby.